The first time Emily saw Jordan, it was raining in Portland. The kind of rain that doesn't pour, but lingers, a soft mist that clings to your jacket and smells like wet leaves. Emily was sitting at the corner table of a tiny cafe, staring out the window and pretending to read. She had moved to the city 2 months earlier, chasing a marketing job that looked better on paper than it felt in real life. Every day blurred into meetings, emails, and microwave dinners. But that morning, when Jordan walked in, everything suddenly had color. Jordan wasn't loud or flashy. She moved with quiet confidence. A leather jacket, a streak of blue in her hair, a smile that looked both shy and fearless. She ordered black coffee, noticed Emily's book, and said softly, "That one has a terrible ending." Emily blinked, startled. "I haven't finished it yet," Jordan grinned. "Then I'll ruin it for you another day." That was how it started, with a sentence that meant nothing but felt like everything. They began running into each other at that cafe, sometimes by accident, sometimes not. They talked about music, films, the absurd price of rent, and how people in Portland seemed to fall in love with coffee more easily than with other humans. Jordan was an artist, painting murals on brick walls for small businesses. Emily admired that, the courage to live from passion, not a paycheck. Their conversations stretched longer each week, until one day they stayed after closing, sitting outside under the cafe's neon glow. They shared headphones and listened to an old Fleetwood Mac song. The world felt perfectly still. Emily had always known she was different. She dated men in college, tried to fit into expectations that didn't belong to her, but it always felt like acting. Her mother used to say, "You'll find a nice guy someday," and Emily would smile, too afraid to correct her. But now, watching Jordan laugh about something small and stupid, she realized that this warmth in her chest was real, not the performance she'd rehearsed her whole life. For weeks, Emily wrestled with herself. She wasn't afraid of Jordan. She was afraid of being seen, of how her coworkers might whisper, of what her family back in Ohio would say, of who she'd become once the pretending stopped. Jordan never pushed. She seemed to sense the quiet storm inside Emily. One evening, as they walked along the Willamette River, Jordan said, "You don't owe anyone an explanation for being yourself. You just have to stop apologizing for it." It was the simplest thing anyone had ever said to her, and it broke something open. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, the city lights painting soft shadows on her walls. For the first time, she felt both terrified and alive. She texted Jordan at 17 a.m., "Are you awake?" Jordan replied almost instantly, "Always." They met at the cafe again, though it was long past closing. The rain had returned, steady, cold, insistent. They stood under the awning, words trapped in their throats. Emily's hands shook, not from the cold but from the weight of what she wanted to say. "I don't know what this is," she whispered, "but I don't want to pretend it's nothing." Jordan didn't answer right away. She just stepped closer, until Emily could feel the warmth of her breath. "Then don't," she said softly. "Don't pretend." They didn't kiss that night. They just stood there, their foreheads pressed together, rain tapping softly against the metal awning. And somehow, that moment, silent, fragile, real, said more than words ever could. In the months that followed, their connection grew like roots beneath the surface, slow but unshakable. They painted walls together, cooked clumsy dinners, fought about nothing, and made up with laughter. Emily came out to her best friend first, trembling as she said the words she'd never dared to speak. "I love her. The world didn't end." Her friend just smiled and said, "I'm proud of you." But coming out to her parents was harder. On a visit home that winter, Emily sat at the kitchen table, the smell of her mom's cooking filling the air, and confessed the truth. The silence afterward felt endless. Her father finally cleared his throat and said, "We just want you to be happy." Her mother didn't say much, not at first, but when Emily left for the airport the next morning, she found a note in her coat pocket. "I don't understand everything, but I love you anyway." It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Life didn't magically become easier. There were awkward stares, moments of doubt, and days when Emily still questioned if she deserved happiness. But every time she felt lost, she thought about that first rainy day, that cafe, that spark of connection that changed everything. One evening, a year later, Emily walked into the same cafe and saw Jordan painting a mural on its back wall, a swirl of colors forming the shape of two hands reaching for each other, suspended in space. She smiled. "You finally finished it," Emily said. Jordan turned, wiping paint off her cheek. "Yeah," she said. "Took me a while to get the colors right." Emily stepped closer, looking at the mural, and realized it wasn't about perfection. It was about becoming. About learning to love not only someone else, but yourself completely, unapologetically. The rain began again outside, soft and steady. Emily took Jordan's hand and whispered, "Let's walk." They stepped into the drizzle, the city glowing around them, the future wide open and unknown. Sometimes love doesn't announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like the space between raindrops, ordinary, fleeting, yet infinite. And in that space, Emily had finally found herself.